Hello and welcome to our new YouTube tutorial. In this video we're going to be creating a navbar with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. At a glance the project looks like a simple one, but it will be really interesting and hopefully you will learn some new stuff. As I said, the project will be built based on HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and I hope that you already know some basic stuff of those three technologies. Okay, let's go ahead and describe the project. As you can see, we have here a couple of different navigation items. They are represented by the font awesome icons. By default, the first item has a different color with different background and also with different shape. Once I click other items, then they will change those colors and shape with nice effects. Okay, let's go ahead and start to build the project. I've created a new folder on the desktop called Navbar, which right now is empty. Let's go ahead and open it in VS Code. And then create our working files. The first one is going to be index.html. Then we need style.css and script.js. Then open the index.html file and create a basic HTML document. For that I'm going to use emmet. Let's place here an exclamation mark and then press tab or enter. So here we have the basic HTML tags. First of all, let's change the title. I'm going to pass here navbar. Then I'm going to link CSS and JavaScript files. Let's open link tag and specify here the name of the CSS file. As for the JavaScript, I'm going to open script tag right above the closing body tag. And then we have to specify the path of the file in the source attribute. Alright, besides that, I'm going to bring in one more link for font awesome icons. Let's go ahead and search for font awesome CDN.js. Then copy the first link from here. Open the link tag in the head element and paste the CDN link in the href attribute. Alright, we are almost ready to start to write the code. Let's run the project to the browser. For that I'm going to use one of the VS Code packages called Live Server. It allows us to run the project live to the browser and make changes and updates without refreshing the page each time. Finally, let's place the editor and the browser side by side, like so, and get started. I'm going to start to create the HTML markup. Let's open the HTML5 nav tag with the class navbar. So inside that element we will have 7 different navigation items. Let's open the link tag with the class navbar link. So each link element will include font awesome icon. Let's open I element with the classes FAS, FA home. Then duplicate this line of code 6 times and change the class names of the font awesome icons. The second one is going to be camera. Then we will have calendar, alt. The next one is going to be compass. And then we will have book. The next icon is going to be camera, retro. And finally we will have headphones. Alright, so that's it regarding the HTML markup for now. Let's go to the CSS file and customize the elements. First of all, I'm going to create some default and reset styles. Let's go ahead and select every element using an asterisk. First of all, I'm going to get rid of default margin and padding. Let's set both properties to 0. Then we need box sizing to be border box. Also, I'm going to get rid of default styles from the link elements using text decoration none. So throughout this project we're going to use rem as the measurement unit. Right now 1 rem is equal to 16 pixels because the font size of the HTML element is equal to 16 pixels by default. I'm going to convert 1 rem into 10 pixels, and for that we need to decrease the font size of the HTML element. Let's set it to 62.5%. Alright. After that, I'm going to select a body element and define its width and height. I'm going to set width to 100%. the height is going to be 100% of the viewport, I mean 100 VH. And also change the background color. I'm going to use RGB value 191248226. Next, I'm going to place the navbar in the center of the page. We can do that in a couple of different ways. In this case, I'm going to use a CSS grid. We need display grid, and then place items center. So as you can see, the items are centered both horizontally and vertically. So that's it about the body element. Next, I'm going to customize the navbar. First of all, let's define its width and height. I'm going to set width to 70 rem. As for the height, it's going to be 10 rem. Besides that, I'm going to assign to it a temporary background color in order to see how the navbar looks like. So let's set background color to light gray CCC. So right now the navigation items ended up at the top left corner of the navbar. We have to center them, and for that let's use flexbox. We need display flex. Then for horizontal centering we need justify content center. As for the vertical direction we need align items center. Alright, that's it about the navbar. Next I'm going to customize the navbar link. At first, let's define the width and height. Width is going to be 10 rem. As for the height, I'm going to set it to 100%. Also, let's change the background color. I'm going to use again RGB value 222233181 and get rid of the temporary background color from the navbar. Okay, next we have to position navigation items. I'm going to place them horizontally in the center and down below at the bottom of the navbar. For that, let's use again flexbox. We need display flex, then align items with the value flex and also justify content center. Besides that, I'm going to create some space at the bottom using padding. Let's set padding bottom to 1 rem. Alright, that's it about the navbar link. Let's move on and customize the font or some icons. Let's select eye element. First of all, I'm going to increase the font size. Let's set it to 2.5 rem. And then change the color, make it 333. Alright, so the navbar is almost customized and now we have to make it work. Let's take a look at the finished project. The half circle, which you see with the active navigation item, is created using before pseudo element. So now I'm going to create this element. Let's select navbar link with before pseudo element. First of all, we need to define the content. It's going to be empty. Then define width and height. Width is going to be 10 rem. As for the height, I'm going to make it 8 rem. And also I'm going to assign to it some temporary background color. Let's say red. Alright, so here we have before pseudo elements. Next I'm going to change its position. Let's set its position to absolute. Actually, we need to position this element according to the navbar link. So let's assign to it position relative. Next we need to define the top and left positions. The top position is going to be minus 100%. As for the left position, I'm going to set it to 0. And finally, let's change the shape of the before pseudo element using border radius. It will take 4 values. The first one is going to be the top left corner. Let's set it to 0. Then the top right corner is going to be 0. Bottom right corner will be 5 rem. As for the bottom left corner, it's going to be 5 rem as well. Alright, so now we are ready to make the navbar work. For that I'm going to use some JavaScript. We have to attach navbar links, click event. First of all, let's select all navbar links. I'm going to create new variable. Let's call it links, and select all links using query selector all method. We need to specify here the class name navbar_link. Next, we have to loop through the links. Actually, the query selector all method returns an array-like object called node list. We have to loop through this list and attach an event listener to each link. In order to loop through the list, I'm going to use one of the array helper methods called forEach. This method works fine with node list. We don't have to transform it to the array. Otherwise, if you use another array helper method, or if you want to loop through the HTML collection, then at first you have to transform it into an array. Okay, let's use forEach method. We have to pass here a callback function which will take one parameter. It's going to be the current item in the loop. Next, we need to attach an event listener to each link. Let's specify here the type of the event, click, and also pass here a callback function which will be executed once we click the link. So once we click the item, we have to move before pseudo element down. I'm going to add a new class to the link. Then we will select before pseudo element with this class and define the movement of the element with CSS. So let's add a new class to the link. We need here class list property, which includes all the classes that the element has. Then it should be followed by the add method, and we have to specify here the name of the class. Let's say change. Alright, let's go to the CSS file and select before pseudo element with the class change. And define top position as -30%. Okay, so now if I click the navigation item, then the before pseudo element will move down. Actually, we have here a tiny issue. If we click another navigation item, then the before pseudo element will move down, but the previous one will keep its position. So we have to fix that. We need to replace the class name of the link element with navbar_link, again on click. For that, we have to loop through the links and define the class name as navbar_link. So we need again forEach method with a callback function with one parameter, link. So we have to define class name, and it should be equal to navbar_link. Alright, so as you can see, now the problem is fixed. Next, I'm going to change the color of the icons and also the background color. So we need to select navbar_link with class change. Let's define the background color. I'm going to use here RGB value 185, 197, 147. Next, I'm going to select I element again with class change. Let's define color. It's going to be white. And also increase the font size, make it 3.5 rem. Okay, so as you can see, the navigation items change their colors and size once we click them. Let's take a look at the finished project. So once we click the navigation item, then their siblings change the border radius. So now we have to take care of that. Like the class change, I'm going to add a new class to the sibling elements of the link, and then we'll define styles in CSS. So we need the link, then the property called previous element sibling. Then again we have to use class list property with the method add, and I'm going to specify here the class name. Let's say prev el change, previous element change. Let's duplicate this line of code. Instead of previous element sibling, we need next element sibling, and also change the name of the class. We need next element change. Alright, let's go to the CSS file and select the navbar_link with those newly added classes. So we have to set here border top right radius to 1.3 rem. Let's duplicate this code change class name, we need next element change, and in this case we need border top left radius with the same value. Okay, so in order to see better if the border radius works fine, let's get rid of this temporary red background color and use the color which is the same as the background color of the body element. Okay, so now the border radius is visible, but as you can see, we need to adjust the position of the before pseudo element slightly because the corners of the item don't look quite good. In order to do that, at first I'm going to increase the width of the before pseudo element slightly. Let's set it to 10.4 rem. And then we need to move the elements to the left side. So let's change the position, the left property. We need minus 0.2 rem. Okay, so now as you can see, we have a much better result. Actually, there is a tiny issue here. If we click the first item, then the border radius of the next element won't work because we have an error here. If I inspect the page and then switch to the console tab, you will see the error saying that cannot read property class list of null. It happens because the first item doesn't have the previous element sibling, and the same problem we have with the last item. It doesn't have the next element sibling. In order to fix that, I'm going to create new elements in HTML. Those elements which we have in front of the first item and the end of the navbar. So let's open the div tag with the class navbar link, then copy this line of code and paste it down below. So now we have to do a couple of things because the navigation items don't look good. At first, increase the width of the navbar. Let's set it to 90 rem. And then we need to disable pointer events for those newly created elements, because once we click them, then we have the same effects as the navigation items. Let's select div elements using first child and last child pseudo classes. And then assign to them pointer events none. Okay, so now everything works fine. We just need to add a couple of different effects to the navbar. First of all, let's make the effects smoother. We need a couple of transitions. At first, let's add the transition to the font awesome icons. We need the following values: color, 0.4 second, and then font size with the same duration. Next, let's add the transition to before pseudo elements with the class change. In this case, we need top, 0.2 seconds. Besides that, we need transition for the before pseudo element by default. In this case, we need top with the duration 0.4 second, and then background color with the duration 0.4 second, and also we need here a little delay time 0.4 second. Okay, next we need transition for the previous and next element siblings. In this case, we need border radius with a duration 0.45 second. So now, as you can see, we have much better results. Next, I'm going to use transition for navbar link. We need here border radius 0.2 second. Besides that, we need here overflow hidden, because if we click the before pseudo element at the top of the navigation item, then it will move down. We don't need that, so let's use overflow hidden. Alright, so now the problem is fixed. Next, I'm going to add a little shadow effect to the navbar. Let's use box shadow with the values 0.3 rem 3 times and the color AAA. Next, we need border radius for the div elements, the start and the end of the navbar. Right now they are selected together, so I'm going to select them separately. Then add to them border radius. For the first one, it's going to be 0.5 rem, 0, 0, 0.5 rem. As for the second one, it's going to be 0, 0.5 rem, 0.5 rem, and then again 0. So the border radius is applied, but now the corners of the navbar are visible because of the shadow effect. So we need a border radius for the navbar as well. Let's set it to 0.5 rem. Alright, the last thing that I'm going to do is to make the first navigation item active by default, because if I reload the page, then we won't have any active items. In order to do that, we have to assign to the first div element class previous element change. And besides that, we have to assign to the first link element class change, and to the second link element class next element change. So now, as you can see, if I reload the page, then the first navigation item will be active by default. Alright, so finally we are done with this project. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you like this video, then please thumbs up, comment below, share it, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell to get notified of upcoming tutorials. See you next time.